Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN.
Let the battle begin.
Good evening and welcome everyone to Into the Nexus. This is Into the Nexus number 94 already. I am Kyle Ferguson. Garrett Weinzel is out sick today. Stuck with the flu. I hope he's watching lots of cartoons on the couch. So, of course, he's not able to join us for today, but I am not alone. I am joined by a wonderful Twitch chat and, of course, people who are going to be calling throughout the episode. So we've set up a Discord server. For those of you who could make the live show, patrons have also been invited to their own Discord server. And after each topic today, we'll be grabbing a couple callers to have a discussion about the main subject we just covered. And of course, on the top of everyone's minds, and we'll get into the NA regionals, Zuul is out. Zuul the Necromancer has come. He has released with quite a bit of power. Last week, we spent a little bit of time going over his key abilities. I'm happy to say that Raised Skeletons is entirely passive and rather fantastic. A little bit of power creep, of course. Those poor guys like a Nubrak looking a little moldy next to the modern Necromancer. Of course, we covered all his heroic abilities, many of his talents during the last episode, so check out episode 93 if you missed those. But let's get into the observations here. I was very sad to find out that the individual skeletal mages can be body blocked by terrain. That means if you cast the skeletal mages and that huge line effect of them is touching a bush or a tower or even a collapsed tower, they don't actually spawn. So you need to be very careful about where you place your skeletal mages or you'll get less than you hope for. They're also very easy to kill, which has been a bit of a bummer for me as well. But I think Poison Nova seems to be the preferred talent for most people, though skeletal mage is actually winning the most right now. He has a very clear anti-tank spec. Team fighting seems pretty good too, particularly, if you're going to go up against a bunch of auto attackers, reducing their attack speed by 50% is a pretty darn big deal right now. And one of the places that a lot of pros and other casters, opinion makers on the internet have targeted as somewhere where he can definitely be nerfed back down. His pure push seems a bit weak, but I mean, that's like saying I don't get to be alone in lane all day by myself and people come and bother me when I try to push with only skeletons. It doesn't make a particularly good argument, and it's better to sort of spackle those throughout the spec so you have an overall better team fight ability rather than just being that guy off by yourself. If you want to be that guy off by yourself, keep being Abathur, keep being Lost Vikings, keep being Murky. Probably just go with Lost Vikings, actually. People have really come to trust Lost Vikings. I added them to my own Heroes League this week. And to great result on quite the winning spree with the Lost Vikings. And something about them, people just go, we'll let him soak. And of course, the power of Ming, Greymane, these characters that really benefit by being ahead, has allowed the Lost Vikings maybe to have their own little place in the meta. Probably thanks to Tempo Storm as well, but we'll get into more of that later. Currently, he is the highest win rate hero at 58.5%, beating out Rhaegar by a whole percent after yesterday's nerf to him. The slight nerf we talked about last week. He has the highest win rate on Spider Queen, which makes a lot of sense with his push power, 65%, and the lowest win rate on Garden Terror. A couple of interesting observations from Reddit. He deals the same auto attack DPS as Kerrigan. A frightening thought there. On his Q, he can deal the same damage as a crit from Jaina's Cone of Cold. That is, of course, his Spectral Scythe, which is decently dodgeable, but it does pump out a lot of damage, and you can augment that thing to hell and back. His W deals as much damage as a Skeletal Swing, and with a little bit of attack speed, or already being closed with the enemy, you can do it up to 5 times in a row. 5 Skeletal Swings rolling out of our Zuul here. His E, his roots, his Bone Prison, lasts longer than Thrall and Arthas's roots. And Arthas and Thrall have to aim their roots. Of course, you have the Frozen Tempest, the Icy Grasp name escapes me at the moment. Of course, the wolf that grabs people. Yeah, I mean, the wolf is pretty hard to aim. Arthas is not so bad, but still a rather moldy character at the moment. Rather sad to see a longer route on Zuul, who could just click exactly who he wants. Seems like an odd thing. His trait can summon skeletons that deal 50% more damage than Nubarak's beetles, which is another frightening thought. And poor Asmodan, we gotta say, poor Asmodan. I saw a lot of him this week. A lot of people seem to be maybe hoping that he could be the one to, maybe bring back the specialist, but Zuul is just performing so well. So we're going to grab our first caller here. It's going to be randomly selected Diomedes. Can you hear me, Diomedes?
Yes, I can, sir. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing well.
Good.
Zuul, overpowered, attack speed decreased too large, mortal wounds. What's your opinion so far?
My opinion, the wave clear, man. At least I feel the wave clear in with all of the minion waves. When you activate that W and you can just, rock out 3 strong. It feels like old Leoric felt.
Yeah, and I miss those days, just wailing on a tower like that. It was good stuff.
It feels good, but I think that the wave clear is pretty strong. And as far as a counter goes for Zuul that I've experienced, Greymane is tearing me up in games when I play Zuul.
Okay, well that's good. At least you do have a counter, but wouldn't you be Zuul's counter by dealing 50% decrease attack speed? Or is it merely everyone's learned from pros this weekend to throw the Gilneas cocktail and then jump your bones?
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think it's the leagues that I play in. I don't have a whole lot of support sometimes, and then the Greymane just comes straight out of the bushes and just, cocktails me, and then I'm down for the count.
Yeah, that's true. Is the delay on the bone prison
I was gonna say,
is frightening.
Yeah, the delay is it's hard. It's definitely high skill cap when it comes to playing Zuul and playing against him. I learned quickly that anybody that has an escape like Leoric is just going to straight, harden bones out of it, and not to target him with the bone prison. And but when it's coming on you when you're playing against it, if you don't have an escape, you got to get out of there quick, right?
Seems like I made the mistake of casting it on Murky a lot. Though Johanna actually does trigger the bone prison. She's just unstoppable. So if you have any traits like Jailer that summons the 2 skeletons, you can actually still get your health back if you spec in that way. That's what I was doing all throughout yesterday. And I found a lot of success in that build. But it still pops up. It's behind her. Whereas those full invincibility heroes like Leoric and Murky just sort of float away.
Right. Yeah, and I was even finding Leorics that were skeletal swinging out of it. I mean, people are getting smart with it already, which is good. I mean, learning around heroes is part of the fun,
Oh, that's true. You could, you're talking about March of the Black King.
Yeah, March of the Black King. Yeah, not skeletal swing. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Just for a brief moment, I thought my Leoric brain went wild as I thought I was the most OP thing versus Zuul, which would be great in lore, right?
The biggest counter to Zuul ever. Just, straight up wreck it with your skeletal swing. No, March of the Black King is, man, they're just popping that and coming straight at you, which is scary because, usually you're throwing that, or at least I am throwing that bone prison down on them when they're trying to get away or they're low health. So if they're facing you and then they just March of the Black King straight at you, it's scary when you're squishy.
And you are. I mean, that bone shield does not last long and has a very long cooldown.
Yeah, so are you taking the shield more often than the slow or the missing attacks one?
I'm certainly doing the giant killer one, yeah. I ran into a lot of double tanks yesterday, so that's just kind of the way I went. Right. I could see myself doing the dodge against Illidan's and stuff, but I already have Bone Prison, so why not kill them instead? And the slow just seems too dangerous.
Right. Yeah, killing them is always the best part. I mean, and it is really, really gratifying to play Zuul and to have an army of skeletons. And I love how that fits into his, it fits into the feel of Zuul when you're marching in with, 8 extra minions as you're trying to take a tower. I think that they did a good job with that, and it's different than what we would think it would be.
Yeah, I think something perhaps, if we're going to target one area for me anyway, as someone who digs sustain, give me more on Raynor, the skeleton's heal seems like it's okay when you're just by yourself, but if some random Jaina comes by and clears the whole lane in one spell, you get every skeleton in full health, and you just feel fantastic.
Maybe too good.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Well, let's see what the future holds. Thank you for calling in.
No worries. Thanks, Kyle. Have a great day.
You as well, man. Awesome auto quality for our first call. Let's go ahead and grab... We got Master DS. Master DS, how's it going?
Hey!
Yeah!
You interrupted someone because we were talking in the other chat.
It'll be the hazard of running the system, but seems to be going well. What's your thoughts on Zuul?
I think that you should bring in more people and make it like a 3-person chat, but I've been enjoying Zuul a lot. Let me turn off my radio. Radio is off.
I just heard the celebratory. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please turn down your radio.
Yeah, I'm really liking Zuul. Let me bring up Hotslogs and see how I've been doing with them. I've been playing, Count, Profile.
Grabbing your spec.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Zuul, where are you?
The one with the high win rate, probably.
Nope, not yet.
No?
I don't know why. Let me see.
Takes some finesse.
What is wrong with Hotslogs right now? It's all looking weird.
Oh, you're probably looking at Zuul. They haven't updated the little icons yet. Which means they haven't updated the text, which means you basically have to hover over each one and know what Backlash, Death's Reach, and Harvest Vitality mean.
Okay. Well, I've been just toying around with the talents, not really dedicating myself to any one build, and just having fun with it, Sometimes, when you're playing heroes, you just get locked into one build all the time.
Definitely.
And I definitely don't see pros doing that. I've been experimenting and just having a good time.
Now, one of the best things you can do about, avoiding locking in those specs is, I know if I chain games together, if I do the same spec every game, I get to a point where I forgot that I didn't have X talent already, and I play so horribly. Like yesterday, I just chained up a whole bunch of games on Zuul where I had vulnerability on Bone Prison, and then I'd wail on dudes like they had it from level 1.
Yeah. Yesterday was pretty good. I won more Zuul games yesterday than I lost, but day 1 was rough. That's the thing.
Sure, and right now the game's going to be who is the better Zuul, and that could not be you, and it could not be me either, because there's plenty of people who get more playtime.
Definitely. Though, I'm currently just tooling around trying to make skeletal mages work because I think they're cool and I like the 20 that raises the skeletal mage. I had a few matches against Murkies and I thought that would be a good pick because you're killing Murky a lot. Kill a Murky, get a skeletal mage. That sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, I've been loving that level 20. It seems like too heavy of an investment when you could get Bone Spear free damage in a line attack every 10 seconds. No
and
mana
if
cost.
they back out, they're just like, hey, skeletal mage, just hanging out.
But you know what? They look great.
They look
and
great.
At this stage in the game, that's all that really matters.
I feel good about when I get a skeleton mage.
Right. Do you feel cool? Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about Shade versus the damage one? Because the damage one does a lot of damage, but I feel like I'm just not getting it off enough to really justify it. Whereas the Shade just, can protect your ass, but it's protecting your ass from the same thing your Cursed Strikes protects your ass from, which is weird.
I saw that overlap as well, and my kind of bummer about Shade is not only the increased 10-second cooldown of the whole ability, but I think of Illidan, and granted that's Illidan, a melee assassin, not a specialist, but when he takes the level 1 talent that gives him a shield, he dodges all his attacks, and then continues to have the shield for a little bit. So it's a little bit of a bummer that we're dodging all the basic attacks. I guess spells come through. If I am fighting Illidan, I take Shade, and Immolate's burning through my shield at least, but one of my philosophies always is, if I take a shield spell and it doesn't take any damage, I have wasted a talent pick.
Definitely feels like that sometimes when you're using Shade. Also, I forgot about the increased cooldown. That is definitely a consideration there.
Yeah, and you'd probably want it against auto attackers, right? Because they have no mana base. Their auto attacks are free. So we would want just as long a cooldown, if not maybe a shorter one. So I'd like to see Shade buffed if just removing the 10 seconds, or we put it on a number of basic attacks so the shield still gets hit once it's over.
Honestly, I think that the slow probably needs a bigger buff, just because I don't think it's super viable.
Sure, I feel you.
Like, I think a larger area effect would probably be a good start.
That'd be a good one, yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing the Jailers, Tharathma's Blessing, which gives you the health back on skeletons.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been doing some pushy stuff with, like, the Corpse Explosion, just to try to just do a lot of pushing. And then Skeleton Mastery to go with that.
But getting Tragul's Essence at level 4 that gives mana back is just useless. You don't have mana problems.
That's definitely true.
So maybe that's where we put our energies and say...
And Jailers gives you extra skeletons that, proc your next thing. So
exactly.
Win-win.
I agree completely. Well, thank you for calling in, Master DS.
Yeah. Okay.
I cut him off. Let's go to our general chat, and let's see, we got Froman. Hello, Froman. Can you hear me, Froman? Oh, sadly, looks like Froman is unable to talk today. Let's go ahead and see if we can grab Lord Boo from earlier. Lord Boo, can you hear me? A shame. Froman, have you activated?
Hey.
Hello. How's it going?
Good.
So what are your opinions on Zuul?
To be honest, I've only gotten a few games since he released, but he's been putting out some ridiculous numbers, and those bone prisons are killing me.
I agree completely. They seem a little overtuned, perhaps?
Yeah, it's just the hero damage he can put out. He arrives at that fight, and if I play an assassin, I am dead.
Is it too bursty, maybe? I mean, what would you, in your opinion, have to pull back from?
I think maybe the root. Maybe do something about it, because if he wants to kill you, you're probably going to get just ganged up on by the entire team.
I was thinking about that as well. I mean, there are better stuns than something that does almost no damage and a pretty long stun, but Uther's Judgment. But it goes, oh, blang, and the light comes down, and Uther, is there in melee, hitting people with hammers, and it very much hollers, hey, everybody kill this guy. And the bone prison's the exact same way. It's chunk and the bones surround them. And maybe it's just too visual for how powerful it is. This would be a solo queue problem. Pros can target a sparkle on their eyeballs.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not great at playing squishies to begin with, but Zuul seems great at being, okay, shot call, that person's going to die. And unless you have a warrior who's just on point, it doesn't seem like you have a chance a lot of the time.
I agree. Well, we'll see what happens. He's definitely pretty dangerous against warriors, dealing with that whole percent-based hits. Not only on his Poison Nova, which is great because it has a pretty short cooldown. I mean, it's about the same cast animation as maybe Mosh Pit. You still have to do a little dance before it all goes out, but at level 20, you can get 1% per tick of the poison damage. And then anything he can do with that Curse Strike, I believe it is Giant's Curse. Yeah, 13. 2% of maximum health per hero hit, which you could hit the whole enemy team with that.
It almost feels, thinking about, like he's almost a counter to everyone, because he has, he can do a giant killer-like build to go against warriors. He has the level 20, 75% nerf to all healing to counter basically everyone except an Uther shield. And he can lock down any squishy to just delete them, with his team support. It's like, how do you counter him outside of just locking him down?
Right, I guess you take bursts. He has nothing to work against mages, so I guess that's where you put it, and we'll see what happens. I mean, this could be the counter. Like, they're not even going to fix Thrall or work on Greymane or try to lower any of their win rates. They're like, let's just see what Zuul can do over a 2-week period.
Yeah, I'm just worried that it's going to be like first 2 weeks of Lei Ming, where it's just, okay, who gets the Lei Ming? Okay, okay, they won. Good, GG.
Yeah, he's going to be popular. I definitely queued up just worlds faster than I ever did with Li Ming in the game. So it seems like he's a little less popular. Granted, it's not a role we need filled in the specialist sort of sense. When Li Ming came out, I was thinking, I'm bored of Kael'thas. I'm okay at Jaina. Let's see what Li Ming can do. And I think a lot of people were in that same boat.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a little odd having two, super powerful heroes come out after a string of 3 or 4 kind of heroes that we had there kind of through the fall and winter time.
Yeah, we can only hope that they choose to go back to dudes like Artanis. And, of course, Arthas has just been highlighted for weeks now, but I'd like to see Artanis get a little bit of a nudge after even Cho'Gall got his nudge, and we saw him all weekend, actually, in the NA Regionals.
Yeah, that was fun, but I'm not going to steal that topic from you.
Sweet. Well, maybe if you hang around, I can get you again. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Let's grab one more person on the Zuul topic here. Lord Boo, are you functional? Oh, I saw you moving in the background. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Unless is there anyone? Let's check in. Let's check in with Deribo. Rank 1 player Deribo, horror of the after show games. Deribo, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm glad you responded to that. What do you think of Zuul?
I haven't played him a lot. The only games I got to...
Oh, did I lose you there?
No, I'm still here. I didn't want to interrupt you, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Go on ahead.
The only games I got to play were non-support games, so I took a lot of self-sustained stuff.
Sure, that makes sense.
He feels good in wave clear. His damage is okay, but his survivability is pretty low if you don't have support.
It makes sense that his top win rate map right now is Tomb of the Spider Queen, where you just keep on laning. I wonder how he's even going to perform when we get out of lane. I think that's why we're all kind of favoring the Jailer into the essence that heals us.
Yeah, I've pretty much
Blessing.
been playing a sacrifice myself to go in and bone prison the squishy Poison Nova and then do as much damage before I die as I can.
That was my original intent as well, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, Tomb of the Spider Queen, I did play one game, and he works extremely well because you can just clear out a lane instantly, go up gank mid, and just try to snowball your lead that way.
And that could be why he's performing so well, is we have those snowball characters, Greymane, Li Ming, and he's just going to perform all the XP gather you would need. And with a little bit of safety, it's not that big of a chance to leave him in a lane by himself.
Yeah, he's pretty good solo laner. I've yet to go up against a Zagara to test their theory of he can outpush the Zagara, so still have to see about that one.
And we'll have to see if there's an actual glitch in the game where the little skeletons that you summon are actively targeting murky pufferfish.
Yeah, I haven't encountered that yet either.
Well,
but
it's a nice quality of life thing.
Yes.
Well, sweet. Well, thanks for sharing your opinion. Maybe I'll grab you later.
Okay. Thanks.
Excellent. Good Zuul discussion. I think we covered just about everything. Probably a little overpowered. I know the pros are extremely concerned about Mortal Wound, so we'll see what happens there. Mortal Wound, of course, being the talent, level 20 talent, that decreases healing received by 75% for 4 seconds. I don't know, man. I think I'm still going Bone Spear right now. Raise Mage is just so cool, but Skeletal Mage is definitely something that takes advantage of being ahead. So we'll have to see in the long run. Either way, performing great on Hot Slogs right now. And there's also the rest of the Zuul patch. This will be our next topic that I'll be grabbing people in to have a conversation about. The rest of the Zuul patch. We discussed it briefly last week. Nova got her buff to snipe, as well as the augmentation to snipe master. So it stacks 5 times and goes up to 15% per stack. Goody gumdrops. No one's taking it. And she went up 0.3%, excuse me. She went up 0.3% to 42% win rate in Heroes League, making her still the lowest darn hero in the whole game. And of course, Rhaegar got his Lightning Shield. These are all exactly how we talked about them last week. Lightning Shield, Electric Charge, bonus radius reduced down to 25%. No, Stormcaller no longer increases the duration of the Lightning Shield. A little bit of the Earth shield talent got changed around 12% instead of 15%. So maybe we'll see less Diablos rolling straight into Rhaegars, but that certainly wasn't represented by the NA regionals. In fact, we saw plenty of Rhaegar, but not a single darn Diablo. Ancestral Healing got a cooldown increase from 80 to 100 seconds, and that Bloodlust mana reduced yet again. Still messing with Bloodlust. I think Ancestral Healing is going to be the way to go. They also added the Observer slots they talked about. Now 4 extra in there, totaling out at 6. And Thrall's price reduced down to 7,000 gold at $8.49 for those paying cash. A good change, certainly an essential part of many comps right now. And nice to see them embrace that part of the meta by reducing his price. There are also 1 or 2 interesting bug fixes. Brightwing's phase shift cooldown will no longer be reset after activating Rewind. A bit overpowered there. Gazlo's rocket turrets will now properly attack doubloon chests on Blackheart's Bay. Before, they just sat there swirling around waiting for heroes to come by. I guess if you like Gazlo brawling, this means your turrets will now be distracted while you're trying to get engaged. So maybe this is a nerf. Could be a buff for Gazlo on Blackheart's Bay. And Li Ming's critical mass trait will no longer trigger when Lost Vikings die, even if she didn't touch them during a fight. So I guess that's pretty good. No more random Li Ming traits. Let's grab Black Helm here. Black Helm. Are these changes enough to fix Rhaegar, or does more need to be done? Looks like Black Helm is not functional. Let's see. Let's go and... Oh, looks... Did we miss you? Are you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. You made it. So what do you think? Rhaegar. Is it enough?
I haven't had the chance to try the shield build anymore. Most of the games I've been in have been in not real heavy HP teams. But I didn't notice any issue with Ancestral Healing. I mean, I'm still taking it, still doing just fine.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be the preferred pick. I struggle to imagine a team that goes, no, guys, no, we got this. Heroes League, solo healer. Let's take that Bloodlust. Certainly, all sorts of options. Greymane, magical fairylands where everyone gets attack speed. Raynor buffs himself and everybody else, but those are left best to dreams. Did you ever get involved in playing Nova?
A long time ago. Pre-nerf.
Okay, so it wasn't like you were right on the cusp of overpowered Nova, and then she was knocked from your hands.
No, not at all. I played Nova when she was somewhat reined in, and didn't really do anything with her after that.
Understandable. Well, excellent.
I do think there is one thing they could do to make Bloodlust usable, and that's give it lifesteal. Maybe 10 or 15% lifesteal. I can see heavy auto attack teams taking Bloodlust then.
I'm sad that the world has moved on from auras, because Vampiric Aura in Warcraft 3 was one of the coolest things on Earth. Now it seems pretty lame, but back in the day, that was an awesome ability. And I'd still like a Dreadlord.
Ooh, a Dreadlord would be interesting. Oh, what good Dreadlords are there from WoW?
You got, I'm Mal'Ganis. You got Mal'Ganis.
You got the dude that was with Sylvanas for a while, too.
Yeah, he was real cool, and I was really sad when he got kicked out. I like going in that throne room, and it was a long walk, and now I'm not going to do that to not see a Dreadlord. Varimathras. That was the big one that tricked Arthas.
That was it.
Yeah, Cullen of Stratholme. That'd be a good map. Probably not very teen-friendly. Go collect souls or bodies from the locals. Destroy all the town. See who can destroy the town first and turn in the skulls. But hey, make it
sounds
happen,
like a depressing map.
Right. Right. I mean, Battlefield of Eternity is kind of depressing that these guys have been fighting forever. Well, sweet, man.
Yeah. Anything else? I mean, I have played Zuul a little bit.
Yeah, well, any parting thoughts on Zuul?
I tried a Spectral Scythe build on my second game with him, and it actually worked out really, really well.
They're powerful. Though the Scythe does seem dodgeable if you're paying attention, which is really hard to do because Zuul on both ends has green effects. Or if his skin changes the color of his Scythe, which is great, adds flavor. We'd all like that kind of flavor on things like locusts and, pufferfish. But right now it's a whole bunch of... both teams have scythes and they're just flying around and poison's going everywhere, and I'm not sure whose is whose.
Yeah, the poison I didn't find entirely useful when the other team had a healer, because then it just became kind of a pointless exercise.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem with any sort of poison damage. Very easily countered, and nothing more depressing than being someone like Lunar and just stacking up these huge piles of poison, and then, like, a protective shield lands on him, and it just negates even the graphic. Maybe that's what they need to change, is just make us feel a little more rewarded by not having a heal come in and decimate the previous poison damage. Let it last through a heal or something.
Yeah, that seems like it would make Lunara's win rate go way up.
Right, I'm not asking for a change in her damage. I think she's in a great spot. But maybe something just visually rewarding, because a single heal can come through and ruin what feels like stacks and stacks of poison damage.
Yeah, Lunara does do really good against Zuul, though. At least in the games that I was playing.
Oh, and he's a melee assassin. I mean, you're not even going to be able to get in her range to get off the bone prison in the first place, which has a ridiculously small range. And then you've got to walk out of there, or you're invested in the whole fight, and she can run away. So Lunara's in a real great place right now. Let's grab... Oh, pardon me, Black Helm. We'll catch you in the future. Let's grab Caleb. Caleb.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Or
How's it going?
Caleb. Am I saying that wrong?
Kyle. It's fine.
Oh, sweet. Well, that's a good sounding name. Were you ever a big Nova player?
I haven't really played Nova as much. I've considered getting into her, but haven't actually played her.
Sure.
But I see her play all the time. Well, mostly because I think she's in rotation, right?
Yeah, she comes up a lot. And I think a lot of solo queuers just enjoy the sort of freedom of riding around and picking your own fights.
Oh, but when I get caught in the I think it's a nuke she does. Yeah, I get caught in that all the time.
Yeah, the orbital laser.
Or orbital, yeah, because especially when there's a lot of people fighting, and she'll just pop it right there, and then just...
It's a powerful ability. I don't know if she should have it, but then again, she doesn't really have much going for her anyway in a team fight situation. So maybe she should just have everything she has.
Mm-hmm.
What about Rhaegar? Anything you think he's good? Good where he is?
Rhaegar. Well, I haven't played him either. Yeah, but I have a friend who's played him a lot, and I don't know. He seems to be good. He seems pretty good.
Sure. You get some Zuul in yesterday?
Zuul, I haven't really gotten him either. Not enough gold.
Fair enough. Well, cool, man. Well, maybe we'll grab you for a future question.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not...
Not at all. Well, actually, before you throw you out, what is on your mind? What are you thinking about in Heroes these days?
Well, for one, with Zuul, just been wrecking just everyone.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's always been with it's been with new heroes, because I felt like Greymane was doing the same thing to me, and Li Ming's been doing the same thing to me. Like, they've just been killing me all the time. But like Zuul, I was surprised he does so much siege damage and insane. Like, he would just one lane. Like, all the players I've seen him play, they just one lane, like top or bottom, and then they just keep going at it.
It's sad too when someone like Asmodan has to work as hard as he does, or pay attention to getting those stacks together. Right now, there's really only one Asmodan spec, and you will be sieging from afar. And you're pretty useless in team fights. That could give you a good excuse to take him on something like Garden of Terror so he can ride the terror. But Zuul can just kind of do everything.
Yeah, and does a lot of damage with his scythe and just everything.
For sure. Well, we'll see if we can grab you in the future, man. Thanks for calling in. Well, looks like I think we could all agree that Nova needs some loving. Sadly, we couldn't get a hold of any old Nova players today. But they are few and far between. and they have all wandered off to greener pastures. Some still playing in Heroes League, some still trying to make it work. Some taking Snipe Master and still defending it and saying, it's good, guys, you just have to not ever miss. And that's not a good place to be in. I think everyone who enjoys the flavor of Necromancer is hoping that there isn't a nerf, but nobody really wants to fight the Necromancer from the other side right now. Let's move on to our next topic. This is, of course, the North American Spring Regionals. It was 8 teams met in Burbank, California this past weekend to battle it out for the 2 available spots in the upcoming Global Championship in Seoul, Korea. It was a fantastic weekend. I watched every darn match. Well, that's not fair. I'm Pacific time. I missed the first match of each day because I slept in. But we had great teams all throughout. Panda Global, Team Blaze, 2 teams that came through and stole my heart this past weekend. King of Alpha, pretty aggressive. I enjoyed getting to watch them play. You know, I think I would have liked them better if they just had a better symbol. But I was pretty unfamiliar with Kings of Blades. I don't know why they didn't go with a nice sort of graphic of Raynor, all King of Blade-ified, with his girlfriend Queen of Blades. I guess they'd be married if they were king and queen. But at any rate, Team Blaze with the Cheez-It. You gotta love it. Panda also doing some really interesting comps, and Team Nam as well, part of that group stage. The semifinals went on to Team Naventic, formerly Bob Ross Fan Club, Tempo Storm, Cloud9, and Cognitive Gaming. I really, really enjoyed getting to see Cognitive Gaming. Last time I really paid attention to them would have been pre-BlizzCon, I do believe. Back when we had the interview with Slime, who sadly is no longer part of that team. That was a shame to see, but I know that was a while ago. Tempo Storm, of course, performed very, very well. And Cloud9, spoiler alert, Cloud9 took it, which I think was still healthy for esports. We'd all like to see, an exchange. Bob Ross Fan Club won that previous tournament, Heroes Hype. And Cloud9 regained their sort of championship title here at the North American Spring Regionals, which I'm a Cloud9 fan. I've been a Cloud9 fan before BlizzCons, before they won anything. Just because, honestly, Cloud9 has a great Dota team, or did in the past. I'm not sure how they're doing these days. And they know how to practice. And they are gentlemen. And we'll get into that in a little bit. It did run wicked late, of course, and it's esports. It always runs late. Here on the Pacific Coast, it was rather perfectly timed, though I was shocked to see how many groups they were actually going to go through. The full thing. Both the semifinals on the second day and the group stage on the first day, they did every single game. If you ever watched the GOM TV productions of StarCraft, it went 4 days of the week. The first 3 days, they do the group stages and move on to the semifinals at the end of the week. And it was very sane. You got to watch, maybe, honestly, about 3 hours to 4 hours of games each day. But it stopped it from being this mad marathon. Of course, you had the same casters there. So, here they were able to trade out casters and give them a break. A big improvement since Heroes Hype. But they still just ran the production team, I think, a little bit into the ground. Particularly, it looks like they were working with 1 or 2 observers, one of which apologized on Reddit for his performance. I didn't think it was atrocious, but I know some people definitely noticed the fatigue he was experiencing. And I know my own wife was yelling at the TV to get to look at the matches that were actually happening elsewhere, in particular those Cho'Gall games. My observations from this game, plenty of Rhaegar bans, plenty of Rhaegar play, which was interesting because I didn't expect Zeratul, and that may speak to how much professional esports I'm able to watch in a week. This could be a thing that's just happening 24/7, right? But the amount of Zeratul bans and Zagara bans really took me completely by surprise. And it wasn't because Zeratul was mad overpowered. It was because he was an enabler of wacky comps. Same with Zagara. To an extent, right? Maw, not quite as usable in those situations as the Void Prison. Nor can you cancel the Void Prison early to, enable some sort of wombo combo. But Zeratul, really just the enabler of wacky comps. And Zagara just seen all throughout the games. When a team could get Zeratul, they'd sometimes go Cho'Gall. Like Cho'Gall from Team Tempo Storm was fantastic and started leading to these crazy Cho'Gall bans throughout the weekend. These wild card Cho'Galls. They didn't know how they were going to beat the enemy team. They didn't think they could maybe out-solid them. So they tried to out-wacky them with some sort of Cho'Gall play. And it was fantastic to see. really powerful. Nothing more apparent than the power of Cho'Gall in that game with Tempo Storm when they ended up basically killing 2 guys and rushing the core on Cho'Gall by themselves. That Shadow Bolt volley burning right through the middle of everything that they had was fantastic to see. I don't think we'll be seeing much of a leak over into our own Heroes League games. There's not going to be anyone being like, bro, let's Cho'Gall, come on, he's OP. But it'll be interesting to see how events like Chair League and smaller tournaments are affected by the rampant Cho'Gall play. Yes, of course, and the Anubarak pick, of which Dustin Browder said he was yelling at his TV for them to pick up. Cloud9 acted all cool like it was some sort of, covert, like, yeah, we've been planning this for a while, Anubarak's been tested in our games at home. But it was a great pick, of course, Anubarak bringing all that CC, but also the web blast to their team that just canceled out Cho'Gall and enabled them to circumvent him and take the victory. Very cool to see Anubarak throughout that whole thing. Plenty of Illidan play. It was interesting, like old school Illidan. We're talking Tassadars, we're talking Anubarak or Abathurs, and Abathurs actually like counter-picked by the enemy team so that they couldn't get the 2015 stack of Tassadar, Illidan, and Abathur. Of course, Morales thrown in there too with the Illidan is a pretty scary feature that's a bit more modern. We also got to see a little bit of Chen, a little bit of Artanis. One Artanis, really, but it was fantastic to see. Seemed like a fun pick. Seemed to work well for him. No Diablo as far as I got to see, unless I missed something. And no Kael'thas. No Kael'thas bans, no Kael'thas play. Plenty of Jaina, plenty of Li Ming, but no darn Kael'thas. And I understand that the pros are heavily affected on their entire rhythm by losing a half second on a stun, as well as everything else that came down the pipeline at him, like the arcane barrier change, everything else in there. But really, really surprised to see how few Kael'thas games, and by that I mean none, that were played at all. Nature's Calling on Lunara was also a major feature of the games, and something that I feel like at home we don't really embrace, but not only the casters, continued to point out how important this was for the teams. At level 7, Lunara could take Nature's Calling, increase the toxic damage done to non-hero units, this would be structures as well, by 200%. So more poison damage on non-heroes. And actually, seeing this thing stack up on a building was a frightening thing to witness. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of that leak in to our actual at-home games. Nature's Calling up against things like Wild Vigor, which is really important for us who are kind of carrying the games as Lunara. I know a lot of people also, and me included, like Splinter Spear, just to get out as much poison damage as possible. But Nature's Calling definitely has its place. And it was Thornwood Vine. I love Leaping Strike, but Thornwood Vine was the primary one. And it's the safe pick, right? I mean, Leaping Strike puts you in some bad positions and isn't always very predictable where you'll end up after that leap. Immortals are no joking matter. Every single one of the Battlefield of Eternity games, actually kind of funny, side note here, how few Garden Terror games we've saw. In fact, Garden Terror was used like some sort of, again, like the Cho'Gall pick, like, we'll go Garden Terror, we'll throw them off. Nobody wants to play on Garden Terror, that's our map. Instead, the Battlefield of Eternity did come up a lot, and they didn't hesitate at all. The second those Immortals showed up, the second the clock started ticking on them, every single pro player just dropped exactly what they were doing, minus maybe a specialist or two, and ran for those things immediately. And we saw the results of what Dreadnought was talking about in the previous weeks, about going on the attack, and what it looks like to be stuck on the defensive during that whole engagement. The delays on Shamans on Infernal Shrines was another thing Dreadnought talked a lot about in the previous weeks, and we've certainly mentioned on the show, but those Shamans, they would take the camps and then just sit back and wait until that shrine had popped so that could get as much done as it can. And it did. They did accomplish quite a bit of wave clear and push power. Another thing that was interesting to see was the pros' attentions in their comps to power curves. And it's nothing we've really had to think about much because we haven't had characters like Li Ming and Greymane who benefit so much from level leads and have these powers that can just completely decimate an enemy team in one go. Whether it's critical mass triggering, multiple arcane orbs or big old lasers coming across, particularly at level 20 with this slow laser that we saw quite a bit this weekend. But also Greymane, that awesome Greymane play, baiting out the Brightwing through the gate and just leaping her and destroying her in one hit. Fantastic. Frightening stuff, but fantastic. Cool to see comps going to the next level for pro players and focusing on what sort of early, mid, and late game power they have. I don't think that'll affect us at home. I think we'll still just keep picking meta comps and we'll stumble through this sort of thing. But could be interesting to see how the thought process changes. Another thing I was impressed with was all the different talent picks on Li Ming. And granted, Li Ming, you're going to be doing damage. You're not going to completely change the way you play just based on a couple of talent picks. But we did see some really cool use of Mirror Ball, just decimating things, going with this full sort of Force Armor. We saw the Charge Blast, the Seeker, the Mirror Ball, just everything into these arcane missiles, and pros with the power to actually hit these things. Something I'm still struggling to do in my games, so I'm not investing very heavily in magic missiles. They're doing great. Though really, if you're looking for your new level 1 talent pick, it is power hungry based on the pro play. They were able to get orbs, even on things like Battlefield of Eternity, where you won't get readily access to those globes. It was still the number 1 pick for the whole weekend. So power hungry, regeneration globes restore 100% more mana and grant 10% more ability power for 20 seconds. Very, very cool to see that sort of be the highlighted spec. Of course, I don't think we saw a single Triumvirate, sort of what's being called the noob spec these days. I don't think that's fair. I think Triumvirate is a perfectly viable spec. And in fact, I think Triumvirate is even harder to play as for Li Ming because you have to be ready for that reset on your orb if it goes maximum range. Let's talk about the production real quick. On the decorations side of things, I was a little disappointed. The Hearthstone Tavern environment is so beautiful. It's fantastic. It lends itself to an energy. And I was sad to see the sort of generic Nexus theme return. I really like the pro player pictures. I was very confused by the start of the game sort of screen they would put up, but I eventually figured out that those were all the team captains, not all those guys being on the same team. Why are they showing Dunk Train every single commercial break? This doesn't make sense. This is not who's playing. I think we should petition Blizzard to go in a Caverns of Time approach to the whole thing. I think we should see artifacts. We should see a little bit of WoW over here, and we should see a little bit of StarCraft breaking in through the wall and just mess it all up. Caverns of Time style. A little bit of Diablo, a little shaman camp right there in the middle, and just spread it all around, make it cool. Oh, yes. Yeah, chat's reminded me of the rather lame draft screen, which they were actively doing at their computers, and it looked like it was homemade by Blizzard, so they wouldn't have to, pay tax to Heroes Drafter or any of those other websites. But it was janky, and it was not a very pretty setup. Dreadnought. Let's discuss Dreadnought real quick. Dreadnought was a treasure. Dreadnought brought to this weekend everything we wanted out of casting for a really long time. But let's take that step back, right? Dreadnought, absolutely fantastic. Fantastic job. I learned a ton. I learned an absolute ton listening to this guy go on about, ability curves and what they're doing on the map and the insider information he had. I am hoping he can maintain that level of knowledge into the future. He's a rather recent addition to casting. He's coming from being a pro player. So very recently, he was embedded in this knowledge. And as you get further and further into casting, those players become more casters than actual players. And they start to, maybe fall back into the rhythms of other casters just because they don't have all that insider information. It was like Zoa. Zoa, when he first started casting, was extremely interesting to listen to. He's a bit more towards the gossip side of things and likes to talk about how much practice or why they're making this comp based on the team, not so much maybe the comp or the actual information portrayed. So we'll see. I hope Dreadnought can maintain that level of skill. Let's throw it out there. Anyone would have looked good with Dreadnought. I saw a lot of very angry... it's my fault for opening up the Twitch chat, right? But I saw a lot of very angry messages this week about the other casters, and I have to disagree. I mean, of course, there were things that I disliked that the casters maybe said. I hope that they would maybe be a little more analytical, but Dreadnought paired with Gillyweed, Dreadnought paired with Jake, Dreadnought paired with Zoa. Like, those are all great combinations. I would have loved to see Zoa and Dreadnought go together. This sort of, drama side of things and the analytical side of things meet up. I love Gillyweed for her energy, and I want to see that next to Dreadnought. And Jake and Dreadnought were a great combination as well. So don't be knocking the other casters. It's a different style, and it's very, very hard to be in the position that Dreadnought currently is. So let's respect him. Let's enjoy him. And we'll see what happens in the future, but very, very happy to have him be part of the current scene. Now, we also have this discussion about sportsmanship in esports. There was a little bit of heckling that came down the line, and lots of people were disappointed in the players. I think WWE, let's jazz everything up. Let's make lots of "you're going down," and I say that as cheesily as possible because whenever they forced the Koreans to do this, it was always very flat. A couple of StarCraft pros that I watch got okay at the heckling, but it still always came across as a little meek and a little awkward. And these guys were jammed. Like, Navintic was just absolutely jazzed about that victory. They stood up, they started yelling at the other guys. We couldn't hear what they were saying. They of course, weren't mic'd because there was, they're the team players. We don't want to hear their conversations and give the chance for the enemy team to hear them. But there was also no live crowd, so they were sort of supplying their own energy. Whereas with a live crowd, maybe their cheers would have drowned out and the team could have basked in the glow and not felt the need to stand up and be possibly rude. I don't know. We're going to take some callers on that in a second. One final note, of course, is the sad aftermath as Panda Global disbands and Team Blaze, who really I just fell in love with for the first time, lost Rafflecaptor and Battery. And by lost, it seems like it's sort of a mutual exchange, but at the same time, the players seem rather bummed to have left the team. So not sure what's going on there in the background. But let's take some callers here. Let's go ahead and grab Cheesy Bob. Let's grab Cheesy Bob.
I mean, like, freaking Cho'Gall. Oh, hi.
Hey, man.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm sorry I interrupted a passionate conversation.
We're talking about the competition this weekend and how hero exposure, and some people were complaining, even though apparently 75% of the heroes were picked in the game got played at least once.
Yeah, no, I thought we had some good representation. So you were clearly rounding on Cho'Gall there.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I was tickled pink to see Cho'Gall both being played multiple times and banned sometimes. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
He became a playmaker. Or if nothing else, like some sort of random rush strategy that it wasn't rush at all. These games took just as long if they had Cho'Gall. But like, we're already up 1, so why not? Let's see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, I think one of the things with Cho'Gall that I think maybe the pros especially have identified is that because he scales better than most other heroes in the game, like his HP scales at like 4.5%, and I think one of the damage abilities also scales at like 4.5 or 5%.
Definitely, the Shadow Ball volley.
They can like make it right, and so I think one of the things that I saw was with the Blaze team, they would have this. They'd be like behind all game, and then would win one big team fight, get the boss, and then push for victory. It was one game I saw.
Yeah,
and it was just so cool to see, where it's like, they're like level 21, and then suddenly they just win.
Well, that was a feature throughout the weekend. I remember on Cursed Hollow, it was Thrall and Jaina, I believe, took down one of those sidewalls and dove the core. And just circumvented, all but the one fort they had destroyed.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know. I think some people can get a little bit annoyed about backdoors and stuff, but I think it's really fun when there's something like that can happen where it's kind of funny because there's memes on it both ways. There's the no comeback mechanic meme, and backdoor no skill GG.
That's true. Yeah, I always enjoy a little bit of 6.5 out of 10 reference.
Right.
So what's your? So you watched quite a bit of this. I mean, what's your opinion of like these teams falling apart? Does it, is it just there's no money involved, so they just end up kind of just disappearing after the main event that they could have won is gone, or something else at work?
I mean, I think that's a big factor. I think that definitely, one of the things that I've heard is, and it's obvious that that's true, is there's not as much money in Heroes as there is in League or Dota, and I think it would actually be, I think that it's probably Blizzard is probably a little bit too proud to kind of copy Valve in this way, but it'd be pretty cool to do a thing like they do with the Compendium, where people are like buying some in-game item that then ups the prize pool, because with the international getting over $10 million prize pool, right, like at that point, like if a team wins that, they're set for a long time.
Right, I think we all sort of have this idea from the past, certainly, that Blizzard doesn't have to make any money because they have WoW, but Valve has Steam, and they make money doing a lot of nothing. I mean, of course they do stuff, but...
Well, right, but I mean, they put up like $1 million, but then they sell the Compendium, and then the Compendium sales, like, it's something like each Compendium, like, they sell the Compendium for $10, and each Compendium that they sell increases the prize pool by $2.50. And from that, so it's not like they're taking any money from fund the prize pool. It's like they're taking money from the sale of this in-game item to fund the prize pool, and the prize pool gets to over $10 million based just on that.
Well, and they have lots of features in there too, like you unlock items, you collect player cards, and if you put them all in, if you win enough games over the course of that event going on, you can unlock additional items, and then your items unlock further if you get friends and other people to join in and throw down their money. So it's the perfect system, and it's sad to see that not live in Heroes of the Storm. It feels like, in the end, they just had to put out a product. They were playing with it for too long, and the game was good enough, and somebody said, go. Oh, my.
Right, I think it's definitely... Huh?
Oh, you went all robot on
I
me.
just switched on to Wi-Fi, sorry, so probably...
Oh, no, now you sound great.
I'm actually... I just arrived home. I was driving home. Now I am home, so I have my Wi-Fi that has much better internet than my mobile phone.
Sure. Well, is there anything above everything else, is there something you would like to see in a future event, and maybe even this weekend, from the EU?
I don't know. I mean, I was really happy with the quality of the competition. I think that, to get sort of more skill and more people involved, I think just, more money, right?
Yeah, but you know what they say. More money, more problems. Thanks for letting me grab you, Cheesy Bob. I will return you to the pool where you can argue about Cho'Gall. Let's grab ourselves a non-patron here. Let's see what we got. We got Oblivious. Perhaps? Can you hear me? Oh,
yes, I can.
Excellent. How's it going, man?
I'm going all right. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thoughts on the NA regionals from this past weekend?
Well, so some of the points you were making about the teams breaking up, my initial thought was just that I think a lot of it is the game is still very new. So there's not a whole lot of opportunities for teams to actually get out there and, play in tournaments where they can win a significant amount of money. So that disappointment, I think, can probably come back a lot harder than it might if they had like another regional size event to go qualify for the next weekend.
I think I'm just so surprised about Team Blaze because they came out of the gate so showmanshipy, just like with the Cheez-Its and the 420s and like just playing to the crowd and picking fun picks. Even if they thought they weren't going to win that, I thought they did a great job representing themselves to gain fans.
Sure. It's just sometimes hard, I imagine, to keep that momentum going when the results aren't there, when
Right.
you're like, you get to that arena and then it just, I don't know. I mean, some of the games seemed really one-sided to me. It seemed like, you had kind of the group of players that were in the finals, that those teams were on one level and then everybody else was just a little bit behind. And I mean, obviously they're all way better players than I am,
Well,
so.
Sure.
But, I can imagine that would be really disconcerting to, we're doing so well. And then we get in these games and it doesn't even feel like we really had a shot.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, do you follow the EU scene much? Anything you're excited about this weekend?
I'm definitely looking forward to watching, what's going to happen. I watch a lot of streamers out of EU. I don't necessarily follow a lot of the pro teams there.
Sure, they do play at 3 a.m., so it's
Yeah,
understandable.
exactly. But I'm just really excited to see the game, continue to pick up more traction, get more players, people like you out there, streaming it up and getting people to watch and get more excited about the game. Certainly, turns up those numbers when it's actually like a big tournament for people to watch, brings in more better casters, as you were saying earlier in the show as well. Just the quality seems to be going up, and that's great for the game.
Definitely, and we have a lot of new players, like just tons coming into this game. Maybe it's Overwatch, and everyone's just waiting for that. Legion is also unknown amounts of months away. So it is sort of the game that has the new hotness constantly being pumped into it. And I hope people embrace that.
Yeah, for sure. And I know one of the kind of stated goals from Blizzard is that they want to have a MOBA that, has the high skill cap and has the pro play and is very interesting, that people want to watch it, but also something that's actually acceptable to, accessible to the lower end skill wise. That's where a lot of these balance tweaks to Nova in particular come from, is my understanding, is that they wanted her to be, viable at the top end without being overwhelming at the low end skill wise.
Yeah, but we didn't even see her pick this weekend, so something's missing. And I mean, we can make fun of Snipe Master all day. If I was Nova, I don't take it because it's unfun. But if I'm a pro player and I've got pro snipes, I think I can maybe eke out a victory.
Sure. And I mean, there's that high skill cap, that they're looking for. They want the heroes to be all at least reasonably balanced when you have, people that have a decade of, pro MOBA experience behind the wheel.
Definitely. And of course, being a newer MOBA, we're getting a lot of older League of Legends players and Dota players. And a lot of them, particularly the ones from League, just care about whoever does it best. And that's kind of the scary thing about Zuul right now is, yes, I could take Skeleton King perhaps for lane clear. I don't know why I would, but, maybe. But I could just take Zuul. I can take Asmodan, but I could just take Zuul.
Sure. I do want to, kind of praise Blizzard in that. I think that, if you look at the stun meta, from a month ago or whatever, that was not at all evident in these regionals. And so obviously the balance changes that they've been making have changed the texture of the game somewhat. They've been able to kind of balance it out, make it a little bit more accessible so that we have more diversity. Somebody earlier was saying it was 75% of heroes. I don't know the numbers, obviously, but that sounds right to me. It was pretty deep. There was definitely a top pool of, Zeratul, Zagara, et cetera. But beyond that, the comps could kind of spiral out in different ways, which I thought was awesome. We saw that one game where they didn't even play a warrior on Spider Queen.
Yeah.
And they won it. It was great.
No, that's absolutely true. That speaks to maybe our small hero pool. But 75%, participation in another MOBA would be a madhouse.
Yeah. And even just the fact that it's, if you look at just raw number of heroes, that's what, 24 or something like that. That's pretty good to see teams that can be cored around the same, really, really strong heroes, Rhaegar, Li Ming, Jaina, but then also have that breadth of diversity in the support heroes that show up to kind of give your team that particular edge in the team fight, or we need more wave clear on this map, or whatever it is.
How do you feel about the BM that happened? There's plenty of Reddit posts about it. Some of us are saying, heck yes, bring it on. I love the old NFL, and some of us are saying, well, let's back out. Things need to be more inviting.
Well, I didn't actually see it on camera or anything like that. I'm not sure how much was shown or anything. So it's all, kind of second and third hand information that I'm working off of.
GIFs and
in
whatnot.
general, Yeah, exactly. In general, I feel like, sportsmanship is kind of one of the number one things if you want to try and grow a game community. I play a lot in Magic the Gathering. I'm a judge for that game. And that's just one of the things that you always have to keep coming back to is, you're there to kind of make it a good experience for the players, because if they're not having a good experience, then the game goes away, and nobody wants that, So, on the one hand, I can definitely understand that level of kind of wanting to have more sensitivity, but at the same time, we're playing something that it gets high energy. When I know I've played more than one game where my own core is at 10% or less, and we're racing theirs. So I totally get that adrenaline rush and that feel when it's super close and you feel like you just pulled it out at the last minute. So it's hard to fault people in that situation. After that huge adrenaline endorphin rush for that kind of behavior,
I get it in my own house, and you bring up Magic the Gathering. I've gotten it playing Overrun against a dude sitting in my bedroom.
Right.
It's just, you get excited.
Yeah. I do. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Zuul a little bit. I've been playing a whole lot of him. I think, so it's interesting, you guys were talking about the level 1 shield talent. The evade, or shade, I think, that's actually in the games I've played, that has seemed like one of the more valuable ones, because you can pop it at the beginning of the fight and then you use your attack speed slow once the shield wears off, and then oftentimes the fight will go up long enough that you have it again at the end of the fight.
He's so new. I didn't even think of staggering those. That's a great observation.
Yep. But the thing about Zuul in general that I found is that, yes, he's really powerful, but he's actually kind of like his own worst enemy, in that you push out the lane so fast that you just end up out there on your own really easily. It's very, very easy to get a little bit too far ahead in your lane and get ganked really easily from the other team. And I think that as far as nerfs are concerned, everybody's talking about he's too powerful, which I'm still not convinced that's actually the case. I think people kind of have to get used to playing against him, the same as it was with Li Ming, the same as it was with Greymane, the same as it was with Medic, But I think if you want to look at ways to nerf him, it seems like the biggest constraint on him is actually his health pool is very small. He goes down really, really quick when he gets focused. So I would actually look at nerfing the shield talent at level 1 if he was going to be nerfed.
Maybe take it down to 12% like we saw on the Rhaegar shield, or even Li Ming got her diamond skin moved down to 25 to 20.
Exactly. Just taking away a little bit of the survivability on a hero like this can really do a lot to kind of restrict your options. I know a lot of times there have been games where I have the opportunity to, kind of solo lane during a Punisher phase at the beginning of the game. And, it's pretty standard practice. You leave your specialist in lane, and Zuul just takes down a fort very, very easily and very, very quickly. You just stagger your Q and your W so that you're just taking out the minion waves when they come in, and that spawns more skeletons for you. You can literally just stand under the tower the whole time, and you never get hit because your skeletons and the other minions take all the shots for you.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of staggering pro players do on their skeletons if they play in a completely different style. I mean, I was capping a dragon shrine yesterday, and I learned that I need to stand to the bottom of that pad so I can still be in range for not only XP, of course, but to spawn skeletons in the lane. That was pretty cool. And if we mess with the bone shield, I think we see a greater pick rate in skeletal mages, because right now it's just sort of informed. I put up a shield, I walk in as deep as I can go, and I poison Nova.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other things with skeletal mages, you had mentioned this actually about it today, the positioning around the terrain features is a huge downside to me. I was so surprised the first time it happened that it just didn't spawn them next to the wall or something like that. I think that that's something that maybe I think that if you want to make one individual change to make the skeletal mages more impactful over the poison nova, I think making it so that you always get your 4 mages is step 1.
It's important to note that the skeletal mages does have a lower pick rate, but a higher win rate right now on hot slogs. But yes, I agree completely. They do body block, so I can understand Blizzard's hesitation if I were to put the whole line in one of those little bush cubby turnarounds, and it just filled the whole thing rather than deleting itself.
Yeah, it definitely could be abusable. I'm curious. I just know that, especially I use quick cast when I'm playing, so you don't get that visual representation of where that line's going to be. So you're then in a situation where you either have to always use your mouse click on your ult in order to know where it's going to be placed, or you're just taking a chance every time you use it.
Right, and we can't scroll wheel it to turn it sideways or anything like that. So to make interesting dynamic placements, you do have to put yourself out of position.
Yeah, and I maybe it's not is just you always get 4, but just giving it some amount of leeway, it feels like would make the talent or make the heroic certainly more competitive with Poison Nova. I mean that Nova puts out a whole lot of damage.
Agreed. Very well said. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think we're good on that topic. I think we got some good observations. I don't think, our home games will be different. Certainly we keep going back to Zuul, but who can blame us? It's a fantastic new hero. Let's move on to a minor bit of news. And this is for those Li Mings out there. Not only to be informed, but also so that those of you who are fighting Li Ming can be aware that a Reddit post by Magalifer, I believe is how it's said, has figured out how many people or which heroes Li Ming can one-shot at level 20. They are using Power Hungry for the 10% ability power, Mirror Ball for the 5 magic missiles, Charged Blast, and the Arcane Orb range that also increases its damage. And of course, Charged Blast is going to give it that auto attack. So this is finishing out with an auto attack, level 20, doing 3,655 damage in just one rotation of spells. The non-warrior heroes who are not one-shot by Li Ming at level 20 are Gazlo, Asmodan, Kerrigan, Malfurion, Rhaegar, the Butcher, Thrall, and Uther. So, 9 heroes that aren't one-shot by Li Ming at level 20? Of course, all throughout here, Lost Vikings, Murky, of course. But Tassadar, Sylvanas, Rhaegar is also one-shot, Nazebo, Lieutenant Morales, maybe that's not a surprise. Falstad, Karazim is also one-shot, that's a scary thought. Vala also getting one-shot in there, and Zagara as well. So that's right, buff to the Gazlo. We got 2 buffs this week. One in word form, as people learn that they cannot one-shot Gazlo, though you are pretty much dead. But also we have that sweet upgrade to our turrets, which now attack the doubloon chests on Blackheart's Bay. Gazlo's coming back, guys. Gazlo's coming back. But sad to see Rhaegar on that list of people who can be instantly blown up. Abathur gets killed 3 times over by Li Ming if she gets her hands on him. Tyke is also going away. Interesting. Check out the show notes for the more exacts, but important for everybody to know. Li Mings out there need to know who they can kill in one rotation so that they can trigger their critical mass, and you should be targeting those people in combat. You should not target the people who have faster movement speed, because you'll most likely miss your magic missiles and your arcane orbs. Plus, you're dealing with, maybe Lunara taking greater spell shield against you. But mainly, you want to trigger that critical mass so you can blow up the rest of the team, because you probably had some splash damage in there that did a good job. Small note to all the Li Mings out there, when you get critical mass and you're shooting your disintegrate laser, teleport forward and cast it again. Don't ride that out. Don't ride that extra 1.5 seconds you have on your disintegrate. Immediately adjust. There's 100% chance that there is a better location for you to be now with one person dead. Be prepared for those critical masses, and you'll be a better Li Ming. And probably avoid Triumvirate. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and avoid Mirror Ball for the rest of the week until I get better at aiming that spell, because I am not very good at it. Let's move on to Dustin Browder tweets, which is always one of our favorite parts of the show. Actually, do I even have it? Can I play it? Let's see. Here it is. Yes.
Right. I could be wrong.
He could be wrong, but he's Dustin Browder. Had a very busy week, so not too many tweets this week. But one of the big ones that came down, and this is all over the forums. Reddit even had its own sort of backlash against the forums. But it seems that most players are extremely frustrated with Abathur Mines, and particularly the Abathur Mines Slow that is part of one of his main builds right now. We're not seeing a lot of Hat Abathurs these days. Partially because of the Towers of Doom map. Mines is really taken over as the primary spec for Abathur. If people are going to hot slogs and looking at the main winning build, that's going to affect it. So Mines is really taking the lead. So let's grab a caller here and see what they think of Mines. We haven't said hi to Durotax today. Let's see what Durotax thinks. Durotax! Durozax. Can you hear me? Too late! Let's grab Brandon here. Brandon, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Kyle.
What do you think of Abathur Mines?
What do I think of Abathur Mines? I think that they are super annoying, and I love using them.
Excellent answer. Spoken like a true Abathur.
I have a level 15 Abathur.
Oh, wow. Very nice. I think I'm level 12, so you beat me out. So are you also fully embracing the mines build these days?
It depends. It really depends on what map and what comp I'm going against. But I actually really like to take the survival instincts at level 1.
I agree. Envenom Nest feels underwhelming. I'm not sure why.
It can be. I mean, obviously, like on some maps, if you know where the enemy is coming from, and you can plant those 5 or 6 mines there, and they run through it, just running through it. It's really satisfying. But then again, the pushing power of your locusts being up all the time, even passively, even if you're not sitting there soaking the lane right next to the towers, your locusts still have that pushing power of being even stronger. So even that, it just helps out I think the Abathur gameplay.
It's a solid pick regardless of what you do, I think. And the game will eventually evolve to level 13 where you're gonna take the Bombard Strain and you're gonna take the Locust Brood.
Definitely.
Are you in a Ultimate Evolution kind of guy?
Oh yeah. The benefits, a couple games I've played where Greymane has started to take off here lately. Ultimate Evolutioning a Greymane and being super aggressive and taking away half or more of their health, and then the real Greymane jumps in, gets the kill, goes for the throat, gets the kill, then jumps to another person because you don't really care about your life, obviously. It's so good, I think.
I agree. And you don't have any sort of cooldown. I mean, I think when Kael'thas came out, he was one of my prime Ultimate Evolution targets, but I had to sit there for 6 seconds without my Verdant Spheres.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, Greymane, and then you got Critical Mass. I mean, there's no reason not to take one of our high burst assassins and just blow up everybody.
Yeah. The whole thing with KT, I love KT. He's almost level 17. I'm still going to play him, even though that Blizzard says that they want to nerf him. But I didn't actually enjoy Ultimate Evolutioning him unless I had to. Unless he was okay, I have to do this guy just for the Gravity Lapse.
Yeah, the Gravity Lapse was good to contribute, but you didn't get the Chain Bombs or any of the talents.
He's so talent-oriented that it was just... It's a hard target to, evolution because of the weight, obviously, for your Verdant Spears and, the no talents, and he's very talent-based mage.
Makes sense. Well, I feel like I grabbed the perfect person for this. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, no problem. I enjoy the show.
Let's get ourselves another caller, and we'll spring another little tweet on them. Let's give a shot at hi? Hello, hi, are you there? Not today. Sorry we lost you. Let's try. Oh, it looks like we lost Rye CP. I was going to grab you, but you wandered off. Let's give Sukurdukur a nice name there. He is also abandoned. So let's go ahead. Oh, we got Badger Lord. Let's try Badger Lord here. Badger Lord, hello.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
So, as the resident ITN Chen #1 fan, how excited were you to see him in the games this past weekend?
I unfortunately do not watch or follow esports, so I couldn't tell you.
Fair enough. If personal or just time investment and
I'm not a sports person. You otherwise.
Fair enough. Don't want to watch other people doing stuff when you could just do it yourself.
Especially when I can't do what they're doing.
Yeah, fair enough. And in certain leagues, esports can be one of the more frustrating things to watch, as all you can think is, well, my team's never like this.
Yeah, we can't ban people either, although we'll get it eventually.
It seems very important to them. What's your opinion on Abathur mines?
Well, I've never actually played as Abathur, but I find them beyond annoying when I'm playing as Greymane, because he has very little health. And there's no real way to avoid them. I mean, I can throw my cocktail, but that's a lot of mana wasted.
Yeah, and you don't even know where they're going to be. I mean, we can ride... For me, as an Abathur player, someone who really enjoys him, not a main by any means, I think I put them in very obvious spots. Particularly, I think of all those little bush clusters on Cursed Hollow that I always put them right in to give my team sight, regardless if they get stepped on. Don't walk through the obvious pathing. Seems like an obvious thing to put out there.
Yeah, whenever I see that they have an Abathur, I stay out of pretty much every bush on the entire map because I know I'm just going to get hit by a mine.
Yeah.
Or 6.
Well, the mines is, for Abathur, it's a pretty recent addition. I mean, we're going back probably at this point about 8 months when he got completely reworked, got those cool level 20s. So with his current win rate, it seems like an odd place to target, but they're moving away from the frustrating Novas. And we could see something happen to Abathur in the future here.
I always found Nova frustrating to play against.
In your league, do you experience a lot of people sniping wells?
Sniping the health wells?
Yeah.
No, I don't actually see any Novas in Hero League at my level.
Well, snipe is a word usage of destroying a well as one of the main goals, getting in lane.
That has been happening on what map is it? The Battle of the Immortals, more than any other map. Not only will they destroy the well, they'll destroy the gate in the middle between the top and bottom lane, which I haven't figured out why yet.
Well, you don't want to be running back there, so it's a good strategical decision.
I suppose. I don't know why we destroy theirs, but I just go with the flow of things.
On Sky Temple, it's a really great strategy because you know that the second temple is going to be in the bottom. So if you can get out in front, destroy their well, they don't have anywhere to stop at and come back for the fight. They have to full on hearth back, basically. Very isolated out there. So right now, Blizzard...
I do see it on that map.
Yeah, Blizzard's thinking about adding some sort of protective shield to it. Maybe based on the wall in front of it, so that you have to take out the 2 towers and the wall before the well can even be targeted.
That would be an interesting thing. I would like to see, you guys have said it before, I'd like to see specialists actually be siege again as opposed to just a side assassin. Give them a point to bringing down those walls so that you can destroy their health pool.
Yeah, I think all specialists outside of maybe Nazebo and Zagara are going to need a little bit of loving. Didn't really see any Nazebo at all this weekend, did we? I can't imagine that we did. Not in a very good pro place right now, but everything's a little RNG on him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, sweet. Thanks for joining me, Badger Lord.
Oh, if you have a quick second, I had one thing to say on Zuul.
Yeah.
I have not bought him, so I haven't played as him yet, but I have played a lot as Greymane and Chen, as you know, I play way too much Chen. He is destroyed by both of those characters. Like, he could not get near me.
Oh, you mean so your Chen is doing really well against Zuul?
Oh, yeah. The second he puts someone in route, I just barrel roll him away, and our team just slaughters him.
He doesn't have any interrupts, does he? So you can just drink all the whole time in the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And when you barrel roll, you're broken out of all forms of crowd control. So, no, I'm not rooted, and just roll him into my team. He can't get away. He has no speed boosts that I'm aware of.
You can drink through the poison nova. It comes out. I wonder what would Zuul do to stop Chen in that case, and I can't really come up with anything. You're right. It closes the distance. Reducing Chen's attack speed doesn't really matter because he's just going to keep on leaping, drinking.
Yep. Chen, coming back.
Yeah, man. He's already coming back. But yeah, there was some great use of Chen this weekend. And if you can stomach it, I would suggest that you go check those out. Really cool Chen play, but nothing really mind-blowing. I think you're still the barrel master here.
Oh, I try my best.
Take care, Badger Lord. Let's try Shilas. Shilas, are you there? Oh, sadly, Shilas is not working. Let's go ahead. Let's see if we got anyone else here that we haven't. Juictan. I like that name. Juictan. Can you hear me? If that is correct.
Yeah.
Sweet. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. What do you think of Abathur Mines? Or any of the other conversations we've had today?
Abathur is definitely probably one of my favorite characters. I really enjoy doing the hat build when I'm on a team with all DPS. But the mine build is pretty fantastic, especially on larger maps, because you can really get vision and just interrupt people crossing the plane and
Sheila
everything.
said had the server muted so
kind
I
of
could
slow
hear the
everybody
show log.
getting to temples and such.
Definitely. Do you think it's too detrimental for new players coming in the game to just be faced with invisible mines, or that's the way of things and you might get blown up by a gray main? Just learn how to play.
Yeah, no, it could be pretty detrimental, especially in a team fight if somebody's on their last leg and really trying to get away, and they manage to mount and then they hit a mine and they're done.
Definitely. How do you feel about the current map pool? And I guess, when did you start playing Heroes of the Storm?
Right. Let's see. Right after beta. Or no, right at the end of beta.
Okay, cool. So you've been kind of along for the ride, and maps have added organically for you, and it's not been this huge learning pile as a new player.
Yeah. And I definitely played a lot of Muradin at the beginning, so I was very familiar with the stun comp.
Well, Dustin Browder said this week that they're definitely adding more maps. Would you like to
I'm
see
excited
more
for
maps?
that.
Or would you?
Yeah,
do you think there's enough, or do they need to add more maps and cut others so that the pool never gets too large?
I think that's what kind of makes this MOBA different in a good way, is the fact that there's maps and objectives, and the fact that every time you play, you're not always playing on the same map, and it's frustrating when you're playing with new people trying to focus objectives. But I don't know. I'm always excited about, like, the Infernal Shrines was a really great map. I kind of a part of me really liked Mines, but just because it was so frustrating sometimes, especially if your team wouldn't follow you in there, and you're kind of just there hoping.
Led to some cool moments, I'm sure, but frustrating. That's the reason you like it, huh?
Yeah, sometimes.
What would you like to see, at least franchise-wise, for the next map?
For the next what?
For the next map, if they were to come out with one.
Ooh. They were talking about an Overwatch map in the patron group there. I don't know. I think. I mean, I of course want to see a StarCraft map. That's a big one.
Yeah, would you want like Zerg versus Terran, or are you thinking something more core hall-y?
Yeah, keep it classic, Zerg versus Terran. That way, some of the characters like Mr. Raynor and everything will feel at home.
I agree. I thought when we had the Diablo event, now 8 months ago, that was going to be like the map that got traded out all the time. It was a random theory, but maybe that becomes two Zelnaga battling in the middle.
Yeah, I think it would work great. I'm curious what the map objective would be.
Well, for new players, it rings and you go. It's not that. I guess it's not too hard of a strategy, but I understand Blizzard's concern on the subject.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to try Sheelos here. Thanks for joining me, Juice Tan. Let's see. Sheelos, you are functional. Sheelos, are you there? Oh, I can see you blinking. But are you active? Ah, bummer. Well, Discord is a fickle mistress, and hopefully we can get you in the future. So I will throw you back in the pool here. Let's take a moment to thank our patrons at patreon.com/ITN for making this show happen. In fact, thank you so much for making this very show happen. You allow us to put in the additional work that it takes to make a show like today. That did require a bit of extra work given Garrett's absence, and allowed it to actually happen. So thank you so much to our patrons over at patreon.com. And, well, let's get to our final note of the day. And that is, of course, the EU Spring Regionals. This weekend, March 5th and March 6th. March 5th and 6th. This weekend at 3 a.m. Pacific time. Not exactly the best time for us in the old United States, but EU is having its Spring Regionals. The teams are Epsilon, Team Liquid, Dignitas Fnatic, Navi, looks like, yes. Virtus Pro, Reason Gaming, which I guess is going by Pigs in a Blanket, and My Insanity. There's a lot to be excited about here. We're going to get Dreadnought again this weekend, which is very cool. We're also going to have Wolf. We're going to have Calaris hosting. And guess what? We got Kaldor. We got Kaldor, guys. We're going to have Teacher and Kendrick as well. But I'm excited about Kaldor and Dreadnought. That'll be it for today's show. I think we made it through pretty well. This is a very cool thing. A couple of Discord issues, but we ended up getting through the show. I hope Garrett feels better. You can, of course, follow Garrett at Garrett Art on Twitter. You can find him at nomoonart.com. The Angry Chicken Podcast, of course, which did not have a Brawl episode this week as he was sick for that as well. And also check him out on The Angry Nerd, where he's doing weekly podcasts all on his own about whatever floats his boat and tickles his fancy. Him and I are doing a Monday stream right now at noon Pacific time, Mondays, over at twitch.tv/AMoveTV, where it's Games Bond. We're playing co-op games and a little bit of multiplayer. We played Overwatch. We played Diablo. This past week, we got back on our Smurfs and continued our mad winning spree. Currently, my Smurf is 10-0 with Butchers. One game is Kael'thas. Did one game as Kerrigan, but that was way too much work. So I switched on over to Raynor, and we ended up owning that whole thing. You can, of course, find me at kyleferguson.com. That's where you can find my Heroes of the Storm lessons. You can also find links to everything I do there, but also check out my Tuesday and Wednesday stream at twitch.tv/kyleferguson, the solo Q&A show. Learn to play Tuesdays, where we're taking it back. An angry statement for sure, but we're taking it back. And we should also check out solo Q&A on Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Pacific, for the new Heroes shows that happened then, but also the Heroes League. And we're able to talk about a lot more granular strategy and show with visuals, rather than what we can sort of do in minor ways here on this show as a podcast form. Also want to thank DoghouseSystems.com, where our code ITN will get you a free 120 gigabyte solid-state drive added to your Doghouse gaming PC. Thank you, DoghouseSystems.com, for supporting the show for so long, as well as our other shows. StarCast, they've been with us a long time. Very much appreciates DoghouseSystems.com. And TweakedAudio.com, where the same code ITN will get you 30% off and free shipping for your entire order of noise-reducing earbuds. And that works across the pond. So if you're listening to this, if you're in the EU, you can get free shipping from tweakedaudio.com. Awesome that they perform that service there. That's going to be it for us. That'll be it for me. I'm Kyle Ferguson, and take care all by itself. Take care, everybody.